Can you repeat your name one more time? I'm sorry.
James.
James, thank you very much.
Mhm.
We'll ask you to unmute yourself again once it's time for general public comment. Thank you. If there's anyone else on the Zoom who would like to provide general public comment or comment on one of the agenda items, please go ahead and raise your hand or *6, *9 via telephone to raise your hand and we'll call on you. Thank you. And if there's again anyone in the hearing room that would like to make a public comment, speaker cards are located in the back of the room. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. We will get started shortly. Just wanted to make one more call before we get started. If there's any general public comment in the room, please fill out a speaker card in the back. And if there's any general public comment on the Zoom webinar, please raise your hand or press star 9 to raise your hand, and we will ask yourself to unmute. Thank you. No. No, is it? Okay, well, sorry. One last call for anyone on the Zoom. If there's any general public comment, please raise your hand or star 9 to raise your hand so we can ask yourself to unmute. Thank you. We're ready. Yeah. Let me put us into record mode. And we are now recording.
Thank you for that. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the regular scheduled meeting for the Board of Public Works for Wednesday, March 20th, 2024. Ms. Zatorsky?
Good morning, Madam President. Devin Zatorsky with the Board of Public Works, taking role in establishing quorum. We have President Garcia, Vice President Villegas, and Commissioner Reyes. We're also joined by City Attorney, Ms. Virginia Choi. And again, Devin Zatorsky. We have one speaker on the Zoom under public comment, no neighborhood council commentary, and no speaker cards under any of the items today.
Thank you for that. Given that we do have public comment, let's take public comment now.
Great. Caller James, phone number ending in 264. You've been prompted to unmute yourself on the Zoom. So you can go ahead. You have 2 minutes starting now.
Okay. Yes, this is James. Now, we made public comment on March 13th. I went back to listen to that meeting, and the public comment and also roll call was blank. 17 minutes, just blank. So I don't know what happened there. I don't know, some kind of malfunction or something. I don't know, just the public comment was not there. The roll call was not there. So that needs to be checked and corrected. Yes, I'm calling about the situation with the mobile restaurants on the sidewalk in my area, which would be Mercer and Laurel Canyon. We have vendors that are set up in front of the red zone. They're actually taking business from our local businesses. We have Kentucky Fried Chicken, we have Popeyes, we have a McDonald's, and we have a lot of independent restaurants in the area, plenty of them, and they're taking business from them. Those businesses do contribute to Social Security. They do contribute to young people who want to start out working, and those are being blocked by these illegal vendors, which are only getting notices. They've been getting notices for about 5 years, and no citations yet, but we're in 5 years now, and no citations, only notices, which aren't working, obviously. Evidently, we only get 36 inches for pedestrians and handicap. 36 inches. 3 feet for
Hi, caller.
pedestrians and
2
handicap.
minutes.
So that is obviously not working.
Thank you for your comments.
Okay.
That's the end of our general public comment.
Thank you for that, Mr. Tursky. General public comments are now officially closed. Moving on to the first item on today's agenda, which is the approval of the minutes of Wednesday, March 6, 2024. Is there a second to my motion to approve this item? Thank you, VP Villegas. Mr. Tursky, there's a first by me and a second by Vice President Villegas to approve the minutes of Wednesday, March 6, 2024.
Great, we'll start the voting, beginning with you, President Garcia.
Aye.
VP Villegas.
Aye.
President Pro Tem Davis. Commissioner Corsan, and Commissioner Reyes.
Aye.
Thank you. All ayes, the item is adopted and carries forthwith.
Very well, thank you for that. I just want to, we have a pretty light agenda today, which is good, and we have a couple of reports at the end of our meeting today, so we're excited to hear those. We are not having the Rory M. Shaw Outstanding Employee Award presentation today. That has been postponed for another date. But with that said, I want to say welcome to everybody that's here in person, and for those that are joining us via the Zoom, welcome everybody. And I also want to say happy birthday to our Vice President today. Yay!
Thank you.
So she'll be accepting gifts and cards all day today. Kidding. Kidding. No, but I just want to wish you a happy birthday on behalf of all of us here, and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
All right, with that said, we're moving on to today's first item, which is the bids received at 10 a.m. for the following public works project. Sidewalk Repair Program, package number 69, access request acceleration sites, work order E1909082, estimate amount of $2,424,449 in council districts 4, 5, 8, 9, 10, 14, and 15. And this morning, we have Mr. Castellanos here that will open the bids. Mr. Castellanos? Good morning.
Great, good morning. We'll read the first bid. The first bid is from Access Pacific Incorporated for a total of $2,667,026.00. That's 2667026. The second bid is from Axiom Group for a total of $2,892,428.75. Again, that's $2,892,428.75. And the third and last bid is from Geronimo Concrete Incorporated for a total of $2,597,776. That's $2,597,776. And that is the three bids we received for this item.
Thank you for that, Mr. Tursky. Is there a motion on the table to adopt and receive today's bids? Thank you, Commissioner Reyes. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, VP Villegas. Mr. Tursky, there's a first by Commissioner Reyes and a second by Vice President Villegas to adopt and receive today's bids.
Great. We will take the roll call. President Garcia,
Aye.
VP Villegas,
Aye.
and Commissioner Reyes.
Aye.
All ayes, the item is adopted and carries forthwith.
Thank you for that. All right, Mr. Castellanos, thank you for your work this morning. Item number 1 has now been approved. Moving on to item number 2, this is a request from the Bureau of Street Services in Council District 13 for a tree removal 5420 through 5450 West Sunset Boulevard. recommending the board to, one, find that under the California Public Resource Code, Section 21166, and the state's Environmental Quality Act Guidelines, Section 15162, on the basis of substantial evidence contained in the whole record, that since the city's prior certification of the Environmental Impact Report, EIRN number 2017-1084, there have been no changes to the project, changes with respect to the circumstances under which the project is being undertaken, or new information of substantial importance concerning the project which caused new significant environmental effects, or a substantial increase in the severity of a previously identified significant effects, and therefore no subsequent EIR, supplemental EIR, or other analysis is required for the project. 2, specify that the Bureau of Street Service Urban Forestry Division, located at 1149 South Broadway, is custodian of the documents or other material that constitute the record of proceedings upon which the board decision is based. And lastly, 3, review and approve this tree removal request for the removal of 4 trees for the construction of a mixed-use development in relation to planning case number ZA 2017-1083, MCU PSPP SPR 1A. Tree replacements are required. And this morning we have Mr. Brian Ramirez here. Good morning, sir. Welcome. We're ready when you're ready. Oh,
Hi, good morning.
perfect.
Good morning, Honorable Board of Public Works. Again, Brian Ramirez with Streets LA, presenting this item, requesting that this board approve a fee permit to remove 4 trees, which include 1 Mexican fan palm, 1 Indian laurel fig, and 2 American sweet gum trees to allow for the construction of a mixed-use development in relation to a city planning case. And tree replacements will be required. The property owner for 5420 Sunset Boulevard, LP LLC, is currently constructing a mixed-use development consisting of 735 multi-residential units and up to 95,000 square feet of neighborhood-serving commercial uses on a 6.75 acre site. The project is within the Hollywood community, and the property owner's representative, Jason Shang, submitted an application to Streets LA requesting a permit for the removal of these 4 trees in relation to the ongoing project. A site inspection was performed by Streets LA arborist on November 1st, 2023, recording that there was a total of 15 street trees growing adjacent to the project. The Streets LA arborist verified that 4 of those 15 street trees would be severely impacted by construction of the proposed required street improvements. And again, the 4 affected street trees are the Mexican fan palm, the Indian laurel fig, and 2 sweet gums. One of the Mexican fan palms that's growing along Sunset is in fair condition. 1 Indian laurel fig growing along Western is also in fair condition. And these 2 trees will require removal as they are directly within the footprint of these future driveways to be installed for access to that project. The additional liquid amber trees are growing along Serrano Avenue, one of which will be required for removal due to excavation for a sewer line directly adjacent to that tree. It would not survive the impacts of the excavation. And the other tree which is the S5, would also require removal for another driveway on the opposite side of the project, again, for access to this very large development project. As far as the alternatives that Streets LA considered, we endeavor to retain healthy, mature street trees whenever possible, and we only consider removal of mature street trees after all alternatives have been considered. So out of the 15 existing street trees adjacent to the project, 11 of them will be retained, and 4 of them only require removal for the repairs at this time. Due to the project's scope relative to the trees' size and condition, the possibility of preservation at this location was not feasible. UFD did seek to work with the applicant to try to reduce one of those driveways adjacent to a ficus tree. But unfortunately, we could not shift the driveway or move the driveway beyond what it was due to the need for emergency vehicles and fire access. Again, we couldn't reduce that. As far as the condition, if this board approves, the applicant shall plant a minimum of 12 replacement trees, which include 6 24-inch box-sized London plane trees and 6 24-inch box-sized African fern pine trees along the project, and it would satisfy the board's 2-to-1 replacement policy. All replacements would be watered and maintained for a 5-year period after planting. As it pertains to the Environmental Quality Act, the Department of City Planning adopted the Environmental Impact Report, case number ENV-2017-1084-EIR, and determined that the project, including the tree removals, would not have a significant environmental effect with the imposition of the mitigation measures that were described in that report. This planning's environmental documents were used in making these findings. It is on file with Streets LA and available to the public upon request. As for the notifications, the 13th Council District was informed of the tree removals on January 10th, 2024, and they were to notify Streets LA of any objections that they raised. The Bureau did not receive any objections from the Council office. Public comments for the tree removal requests were to be heard here, and as we heard, there were none. Also, the trees were physically posted with a document notifying of their removal on September 20th, 2023. The proposed tree removals were also included in the Bureau's Street Tree Services tree removal notification system, informing the public, and also the Community Forest Advisory Committee, CFAC, and the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment were notified of the tree removals. This concludes my presentation to the board, and I'm open for any question that you may have at this time.
Thank you, Brian. You did a really good job really being thorough on this report. Any questions, colleagues? Hearing none. Just for the clarification, all 4 trees are being 2 trees are being removed for driveway installation, 1 is being removed for a sewer line installation, and 3 are for driveway. 3 are for driveway and 1 for sewer installation.
Correct.
Okay. I don't have any issues. I do have a question, though. I see here that there are 7 empty tree wells. Would we be fulfilling those with this project?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
The replacement condition that we placed here, it satisfies the removals at a 2-to-1 ratio, and they will be planting, but any other vacant location, in addition to those requirements, required replacements, will be planted by the applicant in adherence to their determination letter, which requires them to plant everything feasible there.
Perfect. I would just wanted to make sure that we did that, since I don't want to leave such a nice project and then leave tree wells just empty, so this is perfect. Okay, I don't have any other questions or concern. Any objections, colleagues? Hearing none, is there a motion on the table to move item number 2 forward and forthwith? Thank you, VP Villegas. Is there a second? Thank you, Commissioner Reyes. Mr. Turkey, there's a first by Vice President Villegas and a second by Commissioner Reyes to move item number 2 forward and forthwith.
Great, we'll start the vote. President Garcia?
Aye.
VP Villegas? Aye. And Commissioner Reyes?
Aye.
Wonderful. All ayes, the item is adopted and carries forthwith.
Very well. Thank
you.
you. Have a good rest of the day, Brian. Moving on to item number 3, this is a request from the Bureau of Street Service and the Bureau of Contract Administration in all council districts for a request for proposals and personal service contract Cool Pavement Coatings Project, Cool Neighborhood Project, recommending the board to 1, authorize the Director of the Bureau of Street Services to A, issue and release the RFP for the Cool Pavement Coatings Project for the Cool Neighborhood Project. B, evaluate the RFP submissions based on the criteria set forth in the RFP, select and interview the most responsible proposer or proposers. C, negotiated personal service contract with the most qualified proposers. And 2, direct the Director of the Bureau of Street Service to return back to the board for authority to award and execute the negotiated contract with a term period sufficient to complete the proposed project. And this morning, we have Mr. Shaw here. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Honorable Commissioners.
Welcome, good to see you.
Good to see you all. We're back. So
I know.
we were here in 2021, and I remember promising Commissioner Reyes and Corson that we would not do a sole source again, but we would actually do a proposal. So we kept our promise.
Oh, nice, very nice.
So, Commissioners, I'm Craig Shaw, for those who don't know, with General Superintendent 2 with the Bureau of Street Services, and we're requesting that this board allow the Director of the Bureau of Street Services issue a release to request for proposal for the cool pavement coatings for our cool neighborhood, continuation of our cool neighborhood projects, and all of those are in our transmittals, transmittal 4 being the primary. We also would like to evaluate the RFP submissions based on the criteria set forth in the RFP and select and interview the most responsible proposers, and then negotiate a personal services contract for the most qualified proposers. A little background and history on our Cool Pave journey. We actually started this back in 2015 with 15 individual streets, one in each council district, to determine the efficacy of the cool coatings on streets. In fact, City of Los Angeles, to our knowledge, was the first city in the nation to actually put cool coatings on the public right-of-way in the streets. And then we went on to expand that to neighborhood level cooling, choosing 3 neighborhoods in the hottest areas in the valley. And we were able to determine that we want to continue on with that, which brings us up to April 2021, where Streets LA launched the Cool Coatings LA Neighborhoods Project. And this was a multi-year pilot project to provide cool pavings for over 200 street segments, which is equivalent to about 84 lane miles of streets, which we put cool coatings on. The selection criteria was based on the public land climate mapping tool that identified communities that had low shade canopies and high heat indexes. And we targeted areas to make sure that we were going to be the most effective would be around schools, parks, bus stops. And we also chose areas that either had existing trees, needed trees, or areas that we can put in trees so that we can have a multi-level approach to our cooling efforts to provide the most benefit for our Angelenos. And then in May 26, 2021, as I stated earlier, we had a sole source contract with 1-year renewals with a company called Creative Pavings to continue on. So now we're requesting to expand that cool paving program to have it be at least for 5 years at this point. One of the things that we did discover is that within the Bureau itself, we don't have necessarily the expertise or the equipment or the tools to do it ourselves. So we're requesting to have a contractor who have the knowledge, skills, and personnel and equipment to perform the work for us. And this would also, we know this would be the most cost-effective way and approach to this upcoming program, if approved. The Bureau is requesting the authority to release the RFP to award a new contract to the most qualified proposers, as stated earlier, who submits the best and most responsive proposals. And the pre-proposal, and we will have a pre-proposal meeting, which will clarify the minimum requirements to be considered for those proposers. And this will also give them an opportunity to pose questions or for us to define the things that we need within our proposal. Now, as far as community level contracting, we know that it's going to be a little difficult for this type of expertise to unbundle it because we need specific expertise, equipment, and we also need the expertise of folks who have actually worked in the public right away for at least a minimum of 5 years and have experience doing this. But even that being said, we still going to make sure that we advertise for these cool coatings on the North American Industry Classification System, or NAICS, so we can have the most folks who want to get involved with our cooling efforts. Now, the rationale for using the RFP is, instead of the bid process, is we wanted to solicit the best, most experienced businesses available. And also, we'll have a committee review using Streets LA staff of the proposals to try to find the best suited persons for this program. But it won't be just street services, although we mentioned it here. We also are elicit the help of General Services, a materials testing facility, so we can continue to make sure that the validity or the efficacy of using these coatings on our street. Now, the RFP itself will be advertised on the Regional Alliance Marketplace for procurement and will be available for download at, for those who are listening, www.rampla.org. And it would include an announcement of the mandatory pre-proposal meeting, which will clarify the scope of work criteria and also give us an opportunity to answer any questions for those who are interested. Now, we will have a review committee to rate all proposals, and based upon that review, the panel will provide a final report and recommendation in the form of a capital improvement construction personal services contract to this board so that they can evaluate it also. Now, all of these things that I mentioned here is in our transmittal, Article 4.1 of the transmittal number 4 of transmittal number 4. The RFP will also make sure that the business inclusion program, which will be in compliance with the mayor's executive director number 14, will be in place. So Streets LA has anticipated our participation levels of 18% minority business enterprise, 4% women business enterprise, 4% small business enterprise, and 4% emerging business enterprise, and 4% disabled veteran business enterprises. So we're hoping for full participation in this request for proposal. Now, the RFP shall be required, all proposers will have to submit their bid and will be required to perform the BIP outreach using the city's RAMP system, and failure to comply with that system would make the proposals non-responsive. Additionally, the local business preference program, we will be in compliance with that according to administrative code, and we will encourage participation from everyone. The city should, and we know the city will grant 8% of the total possible evaluation points to those who fit the criteria of the LBE, with additional points for those who are part of the LSB or the local small business administration and the local transitional employer, with a maximum award or addition of 12%. And all of these things are outlined in our proposal submittal number 4. Now, the contractor responsibility, all contractors participating in this will have to be in compliance with the requirements specified in the City of Los Angeles contractor responsibility ordinance. And we will make sure that that's strictly enforced. And also, all qualified and interested parties submitting bids should be required to comply with the city requirements outlined in this RFP. The notification of intent or the contract or NOI was filed with the CAO's office clearinghouse on May 30th, 2023, which is part of our transmittal number 5. And Personnel Department made a Charter 22 determination that the city forces, we just don't have the capability of doing it ourselves, and that's the reason for the RFP. Now, the contract performance evaluation, we will have the appropriate city personnel responsible for quality control of the personal services contract shall submit to a contract performance evaluation, which will be given to contract administration upon completion of the contract. And as I stated earlier, the contract, we're expecting it or hoping for it to be for at least 5 years, which would give us a true opportunity to evaluate this on a consistent basis to see the improvements or the continued efficacy of using this cool coatings on our city streets. instead of doing these one-year one-offs and then having a period of time without having additional streets being done. Now, the fiscal impact, Streets LA estimate the annual usage of about 6.7 million, or a little more than 6.7 million. And those funds have already been allocated in our budget. So we have the money, we just want to go do the work. So hopefully this board approves so we can continue on doing the work. And then future funding will be determined by the general manager of Streets LA, because we haven't identified future funding, but we know we want to continue the program. Now, this will conclude my presentation this time, so I'm open for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw, for your report this morning. I have a couple questions, but I wouldn't see my colleagues have any questions. No questions? Commissioner Reyes?
Just for clarification, you're only seeking to award this to one, the most qualified, most responsive vendor or contractor. But it's a huge project. So my question is it possible, or is there a possibility of awarding it to two, sort of like unbundling a huge project of that nature, or are you going to just depend on the subs?
Yeah, and we would like the opportunity to have multiple contractors working on this. We know that when we think of just the 20,000 miles of city streets, we know that if we were to coat every street, one contractor wouldn't actually be enough. So we're hoping to have multiple submissions that qualify and be awarded a contract.
So you do have that adaptability to look at awarding it to multiple contractors? Is that what you're saying? Is that
Yes, yes.
to my
So we-
understanding?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Yes, yes. So we do have that adaptability and flexibility to do so.
All right, thank you. That's all I need to ask. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Reyes. That was one of my questions as well, so thank you for asking that. Greg, the 6.4, about 6.4 is something that's allocated to this RFP. Is that for the whole stretch of the 5 years?
No. So the first year, we've already have, it's going to be from this January to next January. And that's because 2 million of it, if I recall, was from the federal level. So we already just have those monies, and 4 million from the city budget for this. And then we're hoping to continue this on with another 4 million, and hopefully more federal agencies will want to give us money to continue this.
Okay, so the 6.4 is for 1 year?
Yes.
Okay. And with the 6.4 million that we would grant, how many miles would we are able to confirm that we would be able to quote?
Well, that's going to largely depend on the cost, as we know cost rises as well. But at minimum, I can say about 200 city street segments.
206,
200, a little more than 200 city street segments at minimum.
and segments are not miles.
No, those are not miles.
What would a segment be?
So last time we did this, those 200 segments represented 68 miles.
Okay,
Land
okay,
miles.
okay. That's substantial. Okay. I don't have any other questions. I don't see any objections, Vice President Villegas?
I have just one question, not necessarily pertaining to the process of the RFP. Just wondering how once a contractor is selected and they're able to put in the cool pavement, how often will we review or kind of do any kind of metrics to see how effective our cool pavement is?
Yeah, so part of this contract would not just be for those folks who are putting the application, but we're hoping to hire someone who can independently evaluate the efficacy of it. And we'll continue to look at it. I actually personally have 20 years experience with coatings on the street.
Okay. Thank you.
And so just piggybacking on the Vice President Villegas' question there, based on the past work that we've done coating these streets, have we seen a substantial, or have we seen it work, in other words?
Yes, so One of the things we have, the General Services Materials Testing Facility sends us a monthly report, and on average, we get between 6 to 10 degrees difference from the streets that have a cool application and streets that are untreated.
Okay. Sorry, can you repeat the very last part? Because just exactly when you said it, that I heard the motorcycle.
Yeah,
here.
so our materials testing, the city's general service materials testing, sends us a monthly report of all of our all our streets that we put an application on, and we get on about an average of between 6 to 10 degrees difference cooling
Okay.
from streets that have been treated to non-treated streets.
Okay, understood. And we also have the tree installment funding coupled with this when this gets awarded.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So the trees they have the separate funding, but
Right.
but we want to make sure that this is multi-level cooling because there's actually nothing better than trees.
Yeah.
But having cool streets with the other cool shades and the cool trees, we think that offers the greatest benefits to the public.
Okay. And UFT has the funds to match your proposals here?
I don't want to speak for them, but they do have a commitment to follow.
Okay, well, I don't see Brian shaking his head no,
yes.
so I think there's gonna be a commitment. I just want to make sure that these 68 or 200 and something segments that you discussed will also be coupled with trees, and so that means that UFT has to have the right funding as well to make sure that this package of a projects kind of come together. So just want to make sure that you're reaching out, and I mean it's within your own bureau. So just want to make sure that we have that funding coupled with this project.
Yes, and I mentioned earlier just one of our mapping tools, but we actually use three, and two of the three specifically point to trees. We use the Google Tree Canopy tool and also the Tree Equity tool. So everything we're doing, we're trying to make sure that like it's multi-level, but trees is a very important part.
Okay, so I'm glad Brian is actually here so that maybe after this meeting, you guys can make sure that, I just don't want to be able to grant this, which by the way, this is probably one of my favorite things that we do. We do a lot here at Public Works, but this is at the top of one of my favorite things we do here. But I just want to make sure that we're allocating $6 million to 200 and something segments, that also we have funding for trees for those 200 and some plus segments as well. So Brian is here, so I'm sure he'll also is taking notes of that. Okay, thank you for that. Dr. Davis, good morning.
Yes, good morning. I wanted to ask in terms of this project, have there been identified areas that will have the implementation of this cool pavement coatings that we intend to execute already? Or is there some formula or process that is to come that will determine it?
Yes, that's a very good question, Dr. Davis. So we're using three mapping tools, and that's the Trust for Public Land Climate Smart Cities tool, which identifies areas that have a high heat index and low tree canopy. So it's an equity issue, as well as other criteria that we're using, and also the condition of the street. So there's a lot of things that go into formulation, but we want to make sure that everyone gets a fair and equal opportunity or equitable opportunity to have these cooling elements.
To your knowledge, when we look at the terrain of Los Angeles, is it, to your understanding, these areas that exist geographically in each area? Because I understand that while in fact we want equity, it also has to have the element that there is a need in fact for cool pavement, if you will. So when you look at the map, and I know you can't tell me specifically, but generally, if you have any kind of basic knowledge of what we have in our terrain, would you say that some of the areas that are challenged geographically exist in various areas of the city? Or
Yes, that is true, and it's actually the whole city of Los Angeles experienced climate issues. When we did the initial, and I remember you asking me that very same question when we did the initial program. We identified areas that needed, like we went to Wilmington, Westchester, Playa del Rey, which you would think close to the beach wouldn't have it, but they had actually tree equity issues there. The Palms area, Koreatown, East Hollywood, North Hollywood, Lake Balboa, North Hills, Reseda. And so we know the valleys are traditionally hotter, but we
I
know
would
that
think
all
so.
of the city needs
I
some
would think
help.
so. And then have we looked at areas, say, for example, in East Los Angeles and/or in fact in South Los Angeles, certainly there are at least pockets that I can kind of imagine that have less trees than we would prefer. So did you discover in those areas, as you talked about equity, that there might possibly be potential for the implementation of this program?
Yes,
You did.
yes, what we do, yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. All right, colleagues, any objections? Hearing none. Is there a second to my motion to approve item number 1?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. Mr. Tursky, there's a first by me and a second by Dr. Davis to move item number 3 forward and forthwith. Did I s-
Great. We'll take the roll call beginning with you, President Garcia.
Aye.
VP Villegas.
Aye.
President Pro Tem Davis.
Aye.
And Commissioner Reyes.
Aye.
Great. All ayes. The item is adopted and carries forthwith.
Very well. Thank you for that, Mr. Shaw. Have a good rest of the day. Looking forward to all of this. All right, colleagues, that is the end of our voting items. We are now moving into our oral report. I'm going to just go a little bit off order. We do have a pretty large Metro team here that I'm sure they're eager to go back into the field. So I'm going to take item number 6. That's the one for this team, right?
Thank you.
Okay, because I have 2 Metros. 6 and 7 are Metros? 5 and 6 are Metros. 5 and 6. Is that together, Metro team? Or 2 separate entities? Okay, then I'll take 6 first and then I'll take 5 after. And then Lance, you'll be at the end. I saw Lance around here. Although he's hiding on this side. Okay, Lance will take you at the end. All right, Metro team, good to see you all.
President and Vice President. We'll go through our project. We'll start with Purple Line. There's 3 section, 1, 2, 3. So start with section 1. With section 1, Kim Wilson. And Tiara will. Kim is the Deputy Project Manager, and she's going to give you the update.
Good morning, staff, Madam President, Madam Vice President. Can you hear? Have it now? Okay, cool. Okay. All right, sorry about that. I'm here to talk about Purple Line Section 1, the stations La Brea, Wilshire and La Brea, and Wilshire Fairfax. So right now we are at Wilshire and La Brea Station. We are continuing with the sidewalk and street restoration, the entrance structure, plaza, and appendage construction, and all of the interior room build-outs, as well as the MEP architectural and systems. For Fairfax Station, we're continuing to work on the same items, as well as sidewalk and civil restoration on Wilshire Boulevard. The architectural and MEP downstairs also continues, as well as the stairs, elevator, and escalator installation. At Wilshire and Western, the team would like to thank the city for the continued support of our construction at grade. So where we are coming into our 4th weekend of a full closure of Wilshire at Western, and that's allowed for us to progress with the decking removal, deck beam removal, and street restoration to allow for the continued progress of the completion of the project. I believe that one of my colleagues is here to talk about the business interruption fund, so I will step aside. Thank you.
What was your name, ma'am? I'm sorry.
Kimberly Wilson.
Kimberly Wilson, okay.
Good morning, President Garcia and Commissioners. My name is Jessica Spearman. I work on the Business Interruption Fund and the Business Solution Center that we'll talk about later. For Purple Line Extension Section 1, we've awarded 319 grants for a total of $8.7 million to 100 businesses.
Wow.
Thank you.
Great.
And dropped it right there. Okay.
So essentially for section 1, we're finishing all the concrete work right now and the road work. And very soon we're going to disappear underground to do our testing. Then we hand it over to operation to do their own testing as well. So section 2, Mike McKenna, he's the project manager for section 2.
Give me a second. Colleagues, do you guys have a question with section 1? No questions. So you're, based on what I'm hearing right here, section 1 is pretty much complete, right?
Is-
It's complete, section 1?
No, I'm talking the concrete part, the building, the station,
Oh.
the structure part.
The structure.
And the system are finishing. Then after we finish the system, we test the system to make sure they work together.
Okay. And that's the phase we are in now.
That's a phase I'm getting into, yes.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, good to know that. Okay, no questions on section 1. Thank you.
Thank you. Section 2, Mike?
Good morning, President Garcia and Commissioners. Mike McKenna, the project manager for Section 2 of the Purple Line Extension. So Section 2 is the next 2.5 miles. About 90% of the alignment is in the city of Beverly Hills, but a lot of our construction work is focused in the Century City area within the city of Los Angeles. So our forecast revenue service date is summer of 2026, so we have a little bit more than 2 years to go till we open.
Okay.
So just a reminder, I know this board knows the location of the Century City Station, but to people that are on the phone or watching online, our station is located at the intersection of Avenue of the Stars and Constellation Boulevard in the Century City area, which happens to be where the LA Marathon just recently finished last weekend. So we did a lot of close coordination with our city partners to make sure that, I mean, we do this on a normal basis anyway, just to make sure that traffic control devices were in a state of good repair. We walked the site with members of Con Ed to make sure that the sites would be secure over the weekend, just so that the general public that would be, watching the end of the marathon would be safe. So again, we didn't really find anything different than we do on a normal day, but we did it just to make sure everything would be fine over the weekend and there were no issues when the marathon finished. Next slide. So the Century City Constellation Station right now, it's mostly concrete work. We've overall in the project, both stations were deep in the concrete work, building walls, interior columns and slabs. We recently completed, since our last briefing to this board, we completed our last cross passage excavation in the city of Beverly Hills. So we are done with deep excavations on this project. We still have a few shallow excavations around each station. In the city of Los Angeles, we'll be building what we call appendages, the structures that come off the box, the top of the box, like emergency exits, ventilation structures, things like that. So smaller excavations on the order of 30 to 35 feet deep. Those will be taking place this year. We don't have any, I think the next slide shows, well, actually, 2 slides will talk about traffic full closures, but we don't have any full closures planned in the near future, just continued managed lane closures and traffic restrictions at the surface as we do this work. But the work is coming along really well in the station. We have about 70% of the interior slabs. We're working on the concourse slab right now in the public area. We're also working on the entrance structure on the corner of Avenue of the Stars and Constellation Boulevard. And all of this at the same time, we have a neighbor who's building a 42 or 44 story building right next to us. So we're working, I think I've mentioned to this board before, we work very closely with that construction project. We have meetings with them every other week to coordinate activities to make sure that we're not stepping on each other, but also that we're not creating a superposition of or imposing double impacts on people by having, I guess the 2 projects kind of clashing together in the field. So that doesn't happen because of the close coordination. Next slide, please. And we've continued to work very closely with the community. We have our quarterly online meetings. We do one-on-one meetings with major stakeholders like Westfield Mall or some of the other office buildings in the area, depending on where the work is occurring, close to their driveways. We do the monthly and weekly email updates, and I think we're well connected with the community. Oftentimes they'll reach out to us to find out about things that are happening with the other construction project. We do have some representatives from community relations here if you have any specific questions about that, but I think that's probably the one area of this project where things are working really, really, really well. Next slide. And I mentioned on the street closures, we don't have any full street closures planned in the next 6 months, but as we get closer to building the roof of the station box and then backfilling it and then removing the decking, I think this board knows that when we get to that phase of the work, that's when we come back to the board to ask for weekend closures to do the deck removal. we're still, I think right now, based on the schedule, we're looking at maybe beginning of next calendar year for that. But we'll keep you posted in one of the next quarterly updates to let you know if that's still on schedule. And then I think Jessica's here to talk about our business interruption fund.
Thank you. So on Purple Line Extension Section 2, we've awarded 168 grants. That's an increase of 7 since the last time we came to the board, which I believe was in December. We've awarded over $4.8 million to those small mom and pop businesses, or small and micro businesses rather. And our business count, we've awarded 60 grants to 60 businesses. That's an increase of 3 businesses since the last time that we were here. And I'll be up again in just a moment to talk to you about Section 3.
Thank you so much to both of you. Any questions, colleagues?
Oh, yeah, I have
Go
one.
ahead,
Just a
Dr.
basic
Davis.
question. In terms of you've certainly made considerable progress. Did you state the time that you think that we will be complete with the project? I know we initially had some time that we anticipated we would finish the project. Do you have a updated goal in terms of the work that we experience now, when we will be finished with the project?
So our current estimate for revenue service, which we consider total completion, is late summer 2026.
26, all right, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is that that's not the same time as Section 1, right?
No, it's phased. Will be after Section 1.
Will Section 1 be done first, then Section 2?
Yes, Section 1 opens first, then Section 2 and 3. So
Okay.
progressively, within 12 to 18 months, each project down the line.
Okay. Well, it looks like this team here is doing a great job in involving the community, just based on just everything that the little stuff that you have here. I'm sure there's more to it. So just a good job. I don't know if we can replicate that model that you're using here in other areas, because just the part that you're even part of their like local farmers market, just so that you provide this updated information to the community helps a lot. So it's just one of the many things you're doing there. So thank you. Good job on making sure you've included the community.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? And thank you also for not having street closures the next quarter, I appreciate that. But I think we were forewarned that maybe in upcoming later, right?
Yes.
Okay, understood, towards the end of the year?
Yeah, probably early next year.
Okay, no problem. Okay, any other questions, colleagues? Hearing none, thank you for that, sir, thank you.
We have a attendee on the Zoom who just raised their hand. I don't know if it's for this item we just heard or either item 5 or 4 upcoming, but if you want to ask if they want to take public comment.
We'll take public comment for item number 5 at the end,
Okay,
okay?
great.
If it's for 5,
Okay.
okay. Moving
So
on.
for the purple line, the most advanced one is Section 1, then Section 2, and the least is Section 3, because the time of award, the time we start construction, they were consecutive, one after another.
Okay, understood. I mean, it makes sense, but sometimes Section 2 can be before Section
Sometime,
3,
yeah.
and I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, sure. So Section 3 will be presented by Kimberly Ong. She's a project manager for Section 3, and that project, the entire purple line, therefore scheduled to be completed by summer of 2027.
Oh, okay. Wow, getting close to the 2028 mark. There she is. Good morning, ma'am.
Finishing a year early.
Good morning, President Garcia and Commissioners. Again, my name is Kimberly Young, the Project Manager for Purple Line Section 3. And yes, we are currently scheduled to open for revenue service in 2027. We're currently 51% complete with the work. On the next slide for the tunnels update, currently our contractor, as reported before, they finished their tunneling back in April. They finished that push into Century City. And in this last quarter, they finished dismantling and removing the tunnel boring machines from Century City. So now the contractor is focusing on the cross passage work, and that work will be progressing through this calendar year. On the next slide, for the Westwood UCLA station, and actually at both of our stations, the contractor is really focusing on excavation. Before they can really build that permanent structure, they have to dig the big hole in the ground. So currently over at the UCLA station, the contractor is 76% complete with the main station box. They're putting in a support of excavation system. So that's what these whalers and struts are. It's a support system so that they can continue to excavate down. Later in this calendar year, the contract will start with the concrete, but currently the focus is on the excavation. Also within the station tunnel box, our project was a little bit different. We had to get the project going, we had the tunnel contractor tunnel first and then excavating the station down. So not only is he excavating the dirt out of the ground, but it's also removing the tunnel segments because we tunneled first. So that's what this piece is about, the tunnel removal. It's had them tunnel first, and so they're removing dirt as well as the tunnel liner from the tunnel contractor. We also, at the UCLA area, we have some storm drain line work that the contractor is working on as well in the street. With regards with the street closures, we don't have the full street closures. The contractor's at the steady state with the current work with the excavation. On the next slide is at the Westwood VA Hospital Station. This location, likewise, our contractor is really focusing on the excavation. Currently, we are at 83% complete. In addition to the support of excavation system with the typical, I'm going to say with the bracing that you see in the lower left-hand picture, they also have what we call tie backs, that they're installing tie backs into the ground over at the main station entrance. And also at this location, the contractor's removing the tunnel liners, and there's some nice pictures at the bottom that shows the tunnels that they're removing as well. And the next slide I have is with our public outreach. Similar to my colleagues, we do our quarterly updates with our virtual stakeholders, with the communities. We have distributions by email. We have open house events, and also have our briefings with our key stakeholders, our council districts, and also weekly at the VA hospital and administration as well. So we're continuing with that outreach. And if there's any questions on that outreach, I'm happy to answer that. The next slide is just an overview of where we are with the project. Again, really the focus is on the excavation of that work and upcoming than we have with the subsequent station construction. The last slide is a business interruption fund, and I'd like to bring you back up to.
Thank you, Kimberly. On Purple Line Extension Section 3, we've awarded 6 grants. That's an increase of 2 since the last time we were here in December. The total grant awards for Section 3 is $200,000, and that's an increase, I believe, of $50,000 since the last time we were here, and we've awarded those grants to just 2 businesses. We will be increasing outreach along Purple Line Section Extension 3 for the Business Interruption Fund in the coming months, expecting to have some outreach events. And finalizing for the entire BIF for all of our program, we've awarded over 1,500 grants, I think about 1,597 grants to more than granting total grant value of over $40 million. And that's not just for Purple Line, for the sections that we've talked about today, but that also includes the Crenshaw LAX Transit Project, which is now the K-Line Regional Connector Project. Of course, that's the Little Tokyo area and the 2nd and Broadway segments. That's now the E and the A lines, and as well as Purple Line Extension Sections 1, 2, and 3. So that $40 million really is program-wide. We're quite excited about that. We've been able to support a lot of businesses. We've been able to support more than 450 small mom and pop and small micro businesses. Thank you.
Any questions, colleagues? Hearing none. Thank you
Yeah, I
so
got
much.
some.
Oh, Dr. Davis.
Yeah, I wanted to confirm, so Section 3, the completion of it in 2027 will be the completion of the West Side Purple Line, correct? That will complete that whole line once you are complete with this particular section, correct?
Correct.
Now, in terms of the project overall, once the West Side Purple Line is complete, how does that fit into the completion of our whole project? Is this the last line of the project? I know we've done the Crenshaw line and we've done all of these other lines around town. How does this figure the completion of the West Side Purple Line into the overall completion of the work that we're doing for the entire city?
So I think you're asking more of a regional question. So with
Correct.
the purple line, that is with the purple D line.
Sure.
I think your question is about our overall rail program.
Correct.
So we have a very large program,
Sure.
and I suggest that arrange a meeting next meeting, whatever. Bring the planning department to give you the overall picture because lots of projects throughout the county.
Okay. So there's some other lines that we're working on.
All kind of line, yeah. We didn't finish. Like I'm gonna move to East San Fernando. That's a project is going to. We have many projects throughout.
I see. So will you be bringing some of those other projects as
Yeah,
well to
I
us for
can
review?
coordinate for next meeting.
Uh-huh.
When we come for the normal update, we tag with the planning department to give you an overall picture of the whole county.
Yeah, and just do you know summarily what's the timeline do we think we'll be able to complete our regional project? I mean, when?
I can't answer this because every project has different timing.
I
right?
see.
So we finished Grancha has timing. Then we finish Region Connector, different Purple Line. They have 3 different dates for 3 different. So you need to understand each project when each project gonna come.
So obviously, we most definitely are looking at 2030 something before we will get up to where Washington D.C. is with the completion of its line and other older cities who've had lines many years prior to us.
Yeah, it's. I think our program goes to 2045 or so.
20 what? 35?
45.
45. Wow.
Yeah. So I can't even start. I have to
Yeah,
give you
yeah,
an
yeah.
overall.
Well, it's just good to have some kind of basic knowledge of the challenge before us
Yeah.
in
So
public
why
transportation.
if you agreeable, I can tell the planning department, let's focus in the next 10 years
Yes.
and provide more because they're going to be restricted with timing. If they're going to go through every project in the next 30 years, whatever, that's going to be maybe 10 years and give you more detail about the expectation, what timing and all.
So would you say that by at least 2030, we say that this will be completed, the West Line in 2027, that at least by 2030, we will have developed a comprehensive means of transportation in the urban core of Los Angeles, figuring that perhaps some of our communities are more suburban.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
so-
every day we're going to be. It's a continuous improvement. The more we're building, the more the mobility will improve. Again, go to Crenshaw. A lot of people using in the community, utilizing the project. Region Connector. Once we opened, we've seen an uptick in the ridership because Region Connector. It's just a puzzle. Every time we put a piece, it's improved the overall mobility.
And even though I know that this is not directly impacting you, I hope that as you develop these lines of transportation, that we have the support from the auxiliary means of transportation supporting the system. In other words, I'm hoping that we have vibrant transportation auxiliaries with the cab companies so that when I get off the UCLA line at a certain time of night, I can catch a cab. And in fact,
Absolutely.
that in the urban core, I have
Microtrans.
operation coordinating with the bus
Yeah.
system and all of that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. So even though I know you don't directly impact it, I'm hoping that as we look at our regional plan transportation, I'm sure this is the work of MTA, but it's my hope that all of the great work that you're doing is supported in that way.
Absolutely. And I will arrange with the planning department. What comes every 3-4 months. Next time we'll have a presentation by the planning department focusing on the integrated transportation system in the next 10 years.
Thank you.
Okay. And last but not least, East San Fernando, Ms. Ambroso will provide it.
Good morning. My name is Nell Marderosian, Senior Director. I'm filling in for Greg Gastelum, who couldn't be here today. He is out with a cold.
Oh, okay.
So I'll be talking about the initial operating segment, 6.7 miles of street running light rail along Van Nuys Boulevard. We're going to have 11 platform stations, 10 traction power substations. We're going to be procuring 33 light rail vehicles. There's maintenance and storage facility that we're going to be building on the west side of Van Nuys. You can see that yellow arrow pointing to it. And our forecasted construction completion is 2031. On this slide, you'll see a conceptual image of the future Victory Van Nuys station. The bottom image shows a cross-section of what Van Nuys Boulevard is going to look like. So you'll see 2 tracks, a center platform, 2 through lanes in each direction, and then 10-foot sidewalks on each side. Right now, we're in a expedited project delivery program with the FTA. We're waiting for approval of our NEPA reevaluation that we're hoping to get this spring. And then we're in the middle of the FFGA application that we're hoping to get approved in the next few months. In terms of real estate, we've started the acquisition and tenant relocation process, primarily for the properties that are located within the maintenance storage facility site. Some key project updates in terms of construction contracts. We have one construction contract that was awarded to RASIC. They're about to complete in the next 2 weeks at the end of March. They were primarily just doing LADWP vault and duct bank relocations. And then we have 2 pre-construction contracts, one of them being the Progressive Design Build contract that was awarded to San Fernando Transit Constructors, which is comprised of Skanska, Stacy Whitbeck, and AECOM as our designer. And then we also have a public-private partnership, which we call P3 contract, and that was awarded to PCS Energy. We're currently in the phase 1 pre-construction. We're currently working on 5 early works packages. And then we're also trying to finalize some designs for more utility relocations. Project funding. So this project is, our proposed budget is $3.57 billion. We have 3 sources of funding. The Federal Transit Administration through the Expedited Project Delivery Pilot Program, state grants, and then local measures. Project summary, schedule summary. So some key things to note here. That first orange diamond that you see, that's when we're hoping to get the FFGA grant executed. Everything in blue you see is the early works packages that we're going to be working on. That next diamond that you see again, that's when we're hoping to have final construction costs and an approved life of project budget. And then everything in that light orange is construction of the various elements of the project. And then we're hoping to be in revenue service in quarter 3, 4 of 2031. Current construction activities, we do, like I mentioned, RASIC, they're finishing up in the next few weeks, and then we'll have LADWP out there doing their intercept work and energizing the system. We do also have our contractor out there doing potholing and slot trenching for design. And then Southern California Gas Company is also out there performing their own relocations for our project, and they'll be out there in the next, probably over the next 2 years. On this slide, you'll see our upcoming utility adjustments, which are also known as relocations. They're primarily relocations of LADWP water and power facilities along the alignment. So this image shows you guys where these, what we call UA packages are in relation to the alignment. Okay. So I believe this is a new slide from the last presentation. It's upcoming street closure requests. So we're currently working on the traffic control plans. Right now, we're in the early stages of development. We're working with BOE and DOT on these. But we will be needing we'll be having some street closures coming up the next, few months. The first one at Telfair, that again is DWP Vault and Duck Bank relocation. We'll have nightly closures there. No K-rail set up in this area, but Telfair will need to close Telfair when we start constructing this package. And then the bike path will be detoured during construction. For the next two packages, UA23, which is between Galt and Armenta, and utility adjustment 4, Vincenius to Plumbers Street. Those are, again, LADWP relocations, day and night work. Both of these packages are going to be behind K-Rail. We will have select bus stops temporarily relocated, and we will need nightly directional and full weekend closures in these areas. But we are in the early stages of development, so at this time I don't have durations or an exact schedule yet. Okay, I'm going to invite Ron Macias up. Thank you.
Good morning, Ron Macias, Metro Community Relations. The Community Relations team continues to conduct ongoing outreach to further engage the community regarding the East San Fernando Valley Light Rail Transit Project. The team has been attending community meetings in the area, particularly that of neighborhood councils, to provide project updates. Also, project information and collateral material are being disseminated in the community, such as construction notices of work activities that are being performed by the project in the local neighborhoods. The Community Advisory Council, the CLC, is fully formed and operating and are now regularly holding community meetings. Also, the project team has been hosting a project open house for the community to come by, get project information, get a status on the project, and also directly engage the members of the project team regarding various elements of the project. And also, the team has been actively going to community events, further engaging the community and disseminating project information. And the team has been conducting door-to-door outreach to the businesses along the corridor, in particular, informing them of Metro's business mitigation programs, such as Eat, Shop, Play program. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jessica once again.
Hello again. The East San Fernando Valley Light Rail Transit Project will also have a business interruption fund as well as business solution center. Our business interruption fund, which I've talked about earlier, provides financial assistance to small and micro businesses that are impacted by our construction. Our business solution center, which we had on the Crenshaw project, provides business technical resources, development, any kind of assistance that a business might need. Both of these programs will be launching on the East San Fernando Valley project within the next 6 months, and really by the end of June. The Business Interruption Fund should be launching roughly Q2 of this year. I am pleased to present or to inform you that the item is going to our board this month for our fund administrator. This will facilitate our launch on East San Fernando Valley, so we expect to launch within about 30 days or so. The Business Solution Center launch will follow thereafter, ideally before the end of the fiscal year. And small businesses, stakeholders, and the commissioners, of course, can expect to hear more as time progresses, and we should have a more robust update later, next time we're here. Thank you.
Great, thank you for that. Any questions? I have a question. I think the or anybody can answer it, but I think he's the one that discussed it. There's a community, what was it called? Community CAC or something like that, community? You guys formed a committee, right? This is a committee that your team formed.
Yes, we're reflective of the community stakeholders of the community. That represents the broad interests of the community. They're an advisory body that addresses project-related issues.
Okay, I just want to make sure that the folks sitting in those chairs are from the community.
Yes.
And that at least more than 50% of those folks are the folks that actually live in that area. And I also want to just make sure that as we move forward and build their business, which I'm very happy we're doing that we do that we also do it in Spanish, because that's a very high population that speaks Spanish, and our workers, our homemakers, and so more. And so I just want to make sure that they also are part of this development.
Yes, the body represents the full spectrum of stakeholders, residents, businesses, community-based organizations, and there is a monolingual Spanish-speaking individual on the board as well.
Okay, no, I get that. I just want to make sure that they are folks that live in the area. I get stakeholders,
Yes.
and that folks that work there, or folks that work for a community-based organization, not necessarily always live in that area. I just want to make sure that the folks that are going to be impacted are the ones that are actually residing in that area.
Certainly.
Okay, so if you can just, do a pull through of your list and just kind of confirm that at least you have 50% of the members that live in that area.
Okay.
And I'm particularly very more sensitive to this area. I live in this area, so I just want to make sure that we're being sensitive to those folks that normally do not have a voice.
Certainly, yes, we have a CLC manager, and I can confer with him regarding the status of each individual.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. I appreciate it, and I look forward to the business interruption fund coming into play there. Thank you for that.
So that's conclude Metro presentation for
Okay.
today. If you have any question, happy to answer.
Any questions, colleagues, overall? Hearing none. We do have somebody on the line that was perhaps public comment for this one, not sure.
Yes, we'll check. I know we're a little out of order if it's public comment for item number 6. Hi, caller ending in 134. Can you please unmute yourself if you have a public comment for item 5 or 6 on the Metro update? If you have a comment for item 4, let us know and we'll take that at the appropriate time.
It's for item 4, and I had a comment for Cole Streets and the trees item, but I don't believe public comment was called for those.
For item number 4?
I am waiting to speak on item number 4, the STEP program.
Okay,
Yeah.
we haven't.
But I think
We haven't taken
Right,
item
I
number
think-
4 yet. We called public comment at the beginning of the meeting, but we can take down your name and we'll do public comment for item 4 when we get to it. We went a little out of
Right.
order on the agenda.
Right, I understand that, but at the beginning of your meeting, you announced general public
Thank you.
comment, which is
Thank
on
you for that.
item
We are
number-
going to move forward, and if you want to do public comment for item number 4, we will take it in just a minute. Okay,
She hung up.
thank you very much for your time. It wasn't for, I thought it was for item number 5 and 6, but you said 5 and 6, we've now taken on 5 and 6? I have here that we have a LA Metro status update report, Metro and Department of Transportation. No, not you. Anybody here for item number 5? Tari Du Bois, Tara? Okay, so Metro is done then, right? Okay, 5 and 6 are now completed. Thank you for that. Have a good rest of the day. All right, we are now in item number 4, Sidewalk and Transit Amenities Program Update, Bureau of Street Services, and we'll take public comment now.
Hi, public comment. Barbara, were you calling to speak on item number 4?
Yes, I am.
Great, we will take your public comment for item number 4. You have 2 minutes, starting
I
now.
also note our neighborhood council, Westside Neighborhood Council, has a CIS on this item. So if I run over a little, please excuse me and grant it to the neighborhood council.
Are you
My
calling
name-
on behalf of the Neighborhood Council?
Right. Our neighborhood council has a CIS on this. I happen also to be a board member of Coalition for Beautiful Los Angeles. But
didn't get it.
I just wanted to note that I do represent 2 organizations on this item.
Okay, but for the purpose of today's public comment, are you here on behalf of the Neighborhood Council?
I don't know, because we consider ourselves to be a party in this because we have a number of CIS statements on the program.
Yeah. I'm sorry, if you have, that would be, if you're not here on behalf of the Neighborhood Council, you have 2 minutes on public speaking. Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, thank you. It's hard to make comments on this item because there is no written report in advance, and we would ask that in the future there be a written report so we can comment and know what's the topic. We request an update on the public toilet aspect of the program, including operational issues, maintenance issues, cost, etc. An explanation as to why in this program in year one, the most number of new transit shelters were targeting cool CD5 areas as opposed to the hotter areas of the valley. We'd like an explanation as to why the staff program in year two locates the largest numbers of new shelters in CDs 5, 13, and 14, followed by CD9. This seems to be in conflict with the program's stated goals to address the needs of those in areas most exposed to heat. Is there an audit being done to review expenses to date? What will be the impact of the city's budget crisis on the existing and proposed city staffing for this program? In light of the city's budget crisis, is it time to reevaluate the direction of the program and the reliance on city full funding of the structures and installation? Is it time for the city to consider implementing alternative or hybrid models of the program that could deliver shelters to hotter areas of the city sooner? What is the status of the shade structures proposed for locations where full shelters are not possible or appropriate? Design, schedule, identification of locations, and budget. Is there going to be an assessment of the potential impact of the now approved Metro TCN digital billboard advertising program on staff anticipated ad revenues? Likewise, is Public Works considering the impact of the proposed IKE digital ad kiosk program on the revenues expected for staff? We're concerned that Public Works failed to release the year two proposed shelter list to neighborhood councils and the general public. The lists were sent to CD offices, and councils were not even notified that they had been sent to the council offices. We raised this problem with year one, and we're very disappointed to learn that the same process was followed with the year two list, posting the list on a website hard to find after the fact without any formal notification.
That's 2 minutes. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you for your comment.
Thank you. All right, and thank you for your comment. And before us today for item number 6 is the transportation project status update. Excuse me. Item number 4 is the sidewalk and transit amenities program update by the Bureau of Street Services. Welcome.
Good morning.
Mr.
Lance Owishi with the Bureau of Street Services. Pleased to present our quarterly report. The last time that we were before your body to talk about staff was actually last month, but our previous quarterly report was December of last year. And so I'm happy to provide this update today. I'm just going to go over a few highlights initially. In early January, our contractor, Transito Vectors construction subcontractor, which was formerly known as AP Construction, went through an ownership change with the change of the new year. And so they are now known as Craft Construction, but we want to note that it is the exact same company. They've just gone through a name change because of ownership changes. Let's see. Of course, in early February 9th, your board approved Streets LA's recommendation to become the administrator of the Raise LA Fund. And so that was also a huge advancement for our program in the last quarter. The board was also kind enough to execute earlier in December and a supplemental funding agreement with Metro for the North San Fernando Valley Rapid Transit Project. And so following the signature by President Garcia, we forwarded that supplemental agreement back to Metro, and they executed that report also in February of this year. And so the supplemental funding agreement with Metro for that North San Fernando Valley Rapid Transit Project is fully executed, and we are awaiting some additional paperwork actually to get started on that. But we are going to be moving forward on that this upcoming year. We're also fortunate in the last quarter to add a couple new staff positions to help us out with our program. So one is a landscape architect named Hope Piscario, who started with us in early February, and actually have our secondary new employee, who is Diana G., who's sitting in the audience with me today, who's also a landscape architect, who will be helping us with the implementation of that program. And their primary responsibilities will be actually helping us with construction administration and also plan reviews that are critical to the success of the program. There was a mention about public toilets, and so I'll just kind of briefly mention that we do continue to operate and manage the public toilet program. One of the incidents that we had earlier this year was that in February was a incident where a person got stuck in the toilet. Actually, they just didn't want to come out. And so rather than try to force that person out, the fire department was called, and they decided to take a chop saw and cut open the door. And so that causes significant damage to the door and causes us to have to replace it. But I just want to highlight that as one of the daily travails that happens in the course of managing something like a public toilet program. Outside of that, the public toilets do continue to operate. All 14 of them are successfully in operation. We do continue our day-to-day maintenance on those. The biggest news in the last quarter, and this just happened probably in the last 3 weeks ago, was the fact that we broke ground on our first new construction site for staff. And so this was out at the corner of Foothill and Terabella out in CE7. It's a westbound bus stop over there. It's in front of a church. I see Commissioner Garcia trying to think that over that location in her mind. But
I live up there. That's a Foothill and Terabella. I couldn't picture it in my head.
So we were out there on the 26th. Within 4 days, the Transito Vector team completed the sidewalk construction. In the course of doing that sidewalk reconstruction, they placed the foundation for the future shelter as well as electrical conduit. And so this is the work that we're going to be doing between now and, well, for the next, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. We'll be doing advanced site construction work to prepare sidewalk areas to receive our shelters. And so since that initial site at Foothill and Terabella, we've also worked on 2 other locations out in the valley at Roscoe and Sepulveda and Victory and Kester. And so our next site that we will be working on, or we hope to be working on, is actually in Koreatown at Olympic and Western. And these are what we're considering our grand opening sites. So these will be the first 4 sites that we'll be putting bus shelters in once we get around to doing that part. Our actual ability to install bus shelters right now is being delayed because of challenges that we have against the program from our CEQA perspective. And so we're waiting a final determination on that before we can move forward with the installation of shelters. And so those are some of the highlights. Some of the challenges that we're still facing for the program is a lack of staff in the plan review process. We had requested staffing going back a couple years, and unfortunately that staffing did not materialize. And so it's not necessarily within Streets LA, but within our partnering agencies such as the Bureau of Street Lighting and the Bureau of Contract Administration. And so we're currently trying to seek resolution authorities for those positions so that we can continue with that. The plan review process within the Bureau of Street Lighting in particular is becoming critical because they have such a limited capacity with existing staff. And so we do need to supplement their staff so that they can keep up with the pace of approvals that we need to keep the program moving forward on schedule. We are still seeking out additional capital funding to move the program forward. We have right now approximately $100 million in capital funding that allow us to continue on for the next year or 2. But in order for the whole program to be rolled out, we believe that we're going to need another maybe $200 million so for a total of about $300 million in total. That's a moving target. We actually don't have a specific idea of that because of the, again, sidewalk reconstruction. Once we start going out in the field, we may have to expand the scope of work of some of that sidewalk work. We also are still continuing the negotiations with Outfront Deco regarding the fair market value of our existing street furniture, and so that conversation is still ongoing. One last thing that I just want to highlight that's not in the written report that I've handed out this morning is our need to set up further the accounts within the Raise LA fund. And so again, we just received authority to administer that fund last week, and so we continue to try to pursue that to get the fund organized in a sense, in a way that we can safely utilize it and move monies into it and pay Transito Vector therefrom. And so we're working with the CEO, with the Controller's Office and the Office of Accounting to help us get that set up. Lastly, I just want to kind of highlight some of the financials for the program, and I apologize that the print's a little bit small. So total revenues from the program in 2024, which we got an accounting of in January, were $9.505 million. And so that's a $3 million increase over the best program year that we, as far as revenues generated from our previous program, which was about $6 million. So the program itself is generating additional revenues for the city that we have not seen before. We have obtained, as I mentioned, approximately $100 million in capital expenditure funding that'll help to pay for the new bus shelters. And so far to date, we've expended $12.38 million. And so, again, most of that money has gone into the site preparation work, the preparation of the designs for the shelters, this initial construction effort that we're going into. We also pre-ordered a large number of components for the shelter fabrication process. And so we continue to move forward with this. We think that we're hoping that we can install, when we come back for the next quarterly report, that we'll be able to report we installed the first new shelter. And so that's something that we're looking forward to. And attached to the report, there's also a annual report from the Transito Vector that you may peruse at your leisure. Just kind of goes over their business plan for the upcoming year and some of the other factors of the program that may be of interest. And so with that, I'd be glad to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Oshini, for your report. I really like your written one, by the way. I'm happy that it's very detailed in here. Any questions, colleagues? Dr. Davis?
Yeah, I wanted to ask in terms of this program, we do outreach, community outreach, and how do we involve that into the work that you're doing?
We've done extensive community outreach. Going back to the initial RFP, the release of the RFP, we started community outreach from that point forward. We had developed not only a Bureau of Street Services stakeholder group that we met with regularly, but we conducted public outreach by going out to neighborhood council meetings, by actually having general staff community outreach meetings, both online and in person. I'd say that just with leading up to this, the execution of the contract itself, we conducted over 60 community outreach events. Once the contract was signed, we continued with that effort to do in-person and online community outreach events. We've also engaged with Metro, as well as utilized our new contractor, Transito Vector, to actually survey bus riders at bus stops. And this happened actually from September through December of last year, where we actually had people out in the field talking to bus riders, seeing what they wanted, what they saw, what they felt we needed more of at bus stops. And that engagement effort continues to this day. So we have actually a budget of about $180,000 for the upcoming year to expend specifically on community engagement. And so that's what we plan to do. We're going to, again, continue both in-person and online events, and also respond to specific requests from various groups such as neighborhood councils.
The revenues that you utilize to implement the program come from a revenue generating model that we have with this program in the beginning. Is that right?
Yes.
That's where the funds come from.
Yes.
And they are increasing as we continue to experience the implementation of the program. Is that right?
That's correct.
And in terms of the various 15 council districts, they equally apply for grants or funding to implement certain enhancements in their area as it relates to developing bus stops and that kind of thing?
When we've been applying for monies, we've been applying for them more or less on a citywide basis. There are some regional funding sources that we have. For example, one grant that we were able to receive from Metro was from their toll road revenues. And so that particular grant is applicable to the downtown core area. We also received another Cool Communities federal grant that is specific to the Valley area. And so some of those are targeted for specific areas, but a lot of the funding that we're seeking actually is to enable us to roll the program out citywide. Where we are able to obtain funding, of course, we're more than happy to receive it and utilize it to help implement the program. And so, again, we continue to seek out those funding sources that will help us complete the program.
And then in terms of procurement, that's a part or an element of the work that you discuss and do in this project. Is that right? In terms of
procurement?
Yes.
Yes.
And how does that work in terms of procurement? What's the process there?
So look, our Transito Vector company itself is responsible for procuring all of the materials necessary for the program. And so that includes the fabrication of the new bus shelters and the installation. And so it's a one-stop shop for us. They actually are sourcing them from many, many different locations. They are utilizing subcontractors within the local community to help them implement the program. And so yeah, we will be utilizing those resources to actually help us move the program forward.
How does this program figure in terms of the inclusion of economic opportunities for residents and/or small businesses in this city?
So within the RFP and the contract itself, there are requirements for the Transito Vector to fulfill their business inclusion plan requirements. And so they have taken upon themselves to retain local contractors that fulfill some of those needs, such as the minority and women-owned business enterprise requirements. And so that's the way that the program will be trying to engage with the local community from a contracting perspective.
Mm-hmm. To your knowledge, what has the performance been like in terms of that effort, in terms of how many women and minorities have had a chance to be involved in procurement on this project, to your understanding?
So we know that the Bureau of Contract Administration confirmed that the company has complied fully with the business inclusion program requirements. The actual subcontractors that the company has retained, we've actually seen them actually proactively go through the RAMP program to try to retain minority and disadvantaged businesses in general. And so their prime construction contract, for instance, is considered a minority-owned business. So I think that they've been doing the best job that they can as far as complying with that.
I know you can't answer that question specifically here, but I'm interested to know the data on that. So when you get an opportunity, if you could share with me some of the data conceptually in terms of what inclusion has in fact been, I would be very appreciative if we can meet to talk about that, or you can send me by email the data in terms of who actually, in terms of minorities and women have been involved in it. I think in looking at this project, certainly it's a project that helps to improve the quality of our lives in terms of what we're doing here on one hand, but on the other hand, as a member of the Board of Public Works, I see that we have millions of dollars having been generated for this service in the city. And it would be important as a person on this board to make sure that we are able to share that blessing with as many residents of Los Angeles as possible. And it's not possible to do it without seeing where we are. So to the degree that you could help me with the data, I would be eternally grateful.
I'd be glad to do that and follow up with you afterwards.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Dr. Davis. Any other questions, Commissioner Reyes?
Just a clarification, Lance, you did mention as one of the challenges is the need for, the remaining capital expense, right? To fully implement this program that we are estimating 200 million in shortfall. What steps are we taking to more proactively address that challenge before us so that then we know that are there opportunities to raise revenue? Are there opportunities for additional grants? What are we doing in order to address that shortfall?
We are currently pursuing several options right now. One of them being a partnership with Metro to further programs similar to the North San Fernando Valley project, where Metro's goals and our goals overlap directly for bus stop improvements. And so where they have funding set aside, they may be able to help us offset some of our capital expenses. We're looking at pursuing federal loans, one of them being what's known as a TIFIA loan, which will finance up to 49%, I believe, of the total capital cost of a given project. We are looking at additional grant funds, and one that we applied for last year and we're going to apply for again this year is Raise LA. It's not Raise LA, but a Raise grant, which is, I believe, through the FHWA. It's a federal grant program. So we're seeking multiple avenues to raise the capital that we need. And so we believe that within the coming year we'll be successful in obtaining additional monies that will help continue further the program.
Let's continue to monitor that and flag that for the board as well, because that's very important. We don't want to have an increase by the next time you give us your report.
I hope that we can.
I know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Reyes. Any other questions, colleagues? Seeing none, I don't have any questions. I really like your report, how, and especially the part of Transito Victor, our contractor, just, it gives me like now a more deeper sense of who we're contracting with. I mean, I always knew who they were, but now I have like a clear understanding of what we're agreeing with. And I also really like that you added at the end the advertising policy. I was going through it right now and just seeing that it makes sure that it was aligned with our policies, and it really is. So thank you for that.
Yeah, that's the board's policy. Then we made sure that they had that.
Yeah, I really like that. And I want to make sure that, they follow it too as we start. Eventually this is going to get really big, where this is the kickoff of it. But, once, let's say 3-4 years from now, we have multiple advertising going out throughout the city. This policy, we're going to just make sure that we completely adhere to it all the time.
Most definitely.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. Okay, hearing none. Thank you so much, Lance, for your time this morning. I appreciate it. And this was a really good report back.
And happy birthday.
All right. Have a good rest of the week. Mr. Tursky, have we finished today's items?
Yes, that is all the items on the agenda for today.
Perfect. Thank you. With that said, it is now 11:48 and this meeting's officially adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of the day.